What does it mean to be scary? For some stories, it's the ability to shock and send your viewers racing in adrenaline. The jump scare. This is without a doubt one of the most common and recognizable elements of horror, especially in modern day cinema. Yet perhaps more effective, to be scary is to be unsettling. It is the tension of watching a spider crawl out of reach across your ceiling. It's the sinking of one's stomach when staring down the edge of a cliff. Or it's the paralysis when a squirrel walks in front of your path on the way to the corner store. No? No one else has scarophobia? Just me? Unlike a jump scare, a phobia does not send me flying out of my seat. Whereas a jump scare might be the intense thrust down the world's tallest roller coaster, a phobia is the dreadful anxiety as you inch your way towards the roller coaster's peak. This fear draws much less of a visible reaction, and yet it's the type of fear that sometimes sits with us the strongest. It's the type that registers in one's brain and tells them they're in danger, that something is wrong and to keep alert. And that is the exact type of fear that the Promised Neverland excels at. The Promised Neverland is a show that I've used repeatedly as a tool with which to introduce people to their very first anime. In its short 12-episode season, it's able to establish its simple concept and flawlessly execute without issue. And that all begins in just its first few minutes. Near the beginning of episode 1, we watch as the House of Orphans wake up to the early sunrise and all run off to breakfast. The world is bright, the kids are playful, chasing each other around, and all in all, the tone is just really happy and fun. But the directorial approach to this anime is all about creating strong juxtapositions. And in that vein, the slam punctuation of this opening scene is the close-up shots of each child eating their breakfast as an ominous chord plays throughout the background. The camera focuses on numbers branded across the children's neck, and immediately it's clear that all observations of happiness are surface level, while a much more grim reality toils away underneath. Add to that an extra scene of the children in a pitch black room testing their intelligence acumen, and you've got a solid foundation for your dark dystopian setting. From the get-go, this show focuses on establishing a slight sense of unease with the dramatic irony of its characters insisting that this is all a happy, normal life, while we know all too well that they're trapped in some vague semi-concentration camp. But with enough energetic, upbeat music and Connie's unforgettably cute smile, it's not long before you're lulled back into comfort. But comfort is short-lived in the Promised Neverland universe when day fades to night and we watch as Connie departs from the orphanage. One of my favorite aspects of the show is how it utilizes color, specifically in reference to the atmosphere of the house when the sun is down. Almost always, the orphanage is bathed in warm oranges and reds. In the first episode, you don't think much of it, but as episodes pass and we spend more and more time with it, I find the emotions the color evoked become stronger and stronger. Orange and red are the colors of warmth, whereas a blue and green can symbolize harshness in other dystopian settings like The Matrix or Children of Men. Warm colors can be used to represent the idea of home. It's an invitation to a place that's accepting. In Little Women, it's the color that represents the good old days when the characters were children. But colors are not singular in meaning, and to go back to that idea of juxtapositions, this is exemplified in the Promised Neverland's approach. Warmth is right in the sense that the orphanage is home, but reds and orange can also be the color of an intense heat. It's the sensation of fire pressing against the back of your neck. Utilizing the color red to its extreme, and it's no longer welcoming, but instead jarring and harsh. Imagine trying to live in a film development room. The Promised Neverland lives in a facade. Its choice of color, much like its setting, is one that is pleasant on the surface, and yet the more you dig, the more you find this unending dread. The ever-present heat of each scene is one of being watched. A spying eye that looks on our main cast as they give every ounce of their lives trying to devise a plan to escape. This is further reinforced in camera movement. Whenever I think about this anime, I think about this one sequence in episode 4. It's a POV shot as a nondescript character walks through the hallway towards the library. I'm not usually a huge fan of these types of shots. They feel gimmicky and break a lot of immersion. And yet here, I find its use to be the best it ever could be. It captures that idea of an ever-present eye, following the kids and spying on their every move in perfect suspense, which is exactly the tone needed for a dramatic scene like the one it leads to, where for the first time, the main three are bringing other kids into the reality of their situation. For our three children, it's a risk risky move, one that the characters even acknowledge could lead to their capture by Isabella. So establishing the atmosphere that this conversation might not be secret is precisely what's needed to keep with the intensity of the action. This technique continues to get used throughout the show, like in the scene here where Norman, Emma, and Ray all attempt to decipher William Minerva's Morse code in the library. The camera is constantly placed in the shadows, hidden behind a wall or a bookshelf, and it lends itself to such an uncomfortable eeriness. Someone is watching. It could be Isabella, it could be Sister Crone, it could even be another kid. And as long as that possibility remains on the table, you never feel safe. Any plan feels like it could be ruined. Any moment the entire charade could be broken and the kids sent off to their death. A large part of the reason I've fallen so deeply in love with The Promised Neverland is because it's a story written so intelligently with characters that come up with genuinely unique and creative plans. It's a setting with just enough room for allegory and metaphorical interpretation. But really, what I've come to love about The Promised Neverland is how masterfully each element of its anime plays into the overall picture. On top of brilliant writing, it uses color, camera movement, character design, and music all to weave this tapestry of atmospheric anxiety. The Promised Neverland isn't a story that makes me jump out of my seat in fear, but when I watch Norman return back to the house after seeing the other side of the wall, his defeated exhaustion is palpable, and the blank look in his eyes when he reveals the cliff to Emma and Ray is undeniable in the sense of anguish it brings. It's a harrowing scene that perfectly segues into the show's melancholic ED as a crushing blow is delivered to the hopes and dreams of both the characters and audience. By some definitions, The Promised Neverland is far from a horror, but its ability to make me tense with anxiety, really feeling the depths of despair and inevitable doom, is a fear that is impossible to forget. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like down below and share it with your friends. If you're interested in my writing, check out my original webcomic Embers about a young wizard creating their first magical golem. I want to give a massive shout out to Straight Idea and all of the other incredible patrons over at patreon.com/KatoYT. Please, if you can, head on over there and give just $1 to get access to our exclusive patron Discord. You could also get t-shirts over at katomerch.com or follow us on Twitter at ZeroAndHoodie. Links to all these will be in the description. My name is Hoodie Song, this is Kato, and I'll see you next time.